What if I told you that somewhere in this very moment, $1 million check already exists with your name on it? Not a fantasy, not a someday dream, but something real, waiting right now. Question isn't whether it's there. The question is, will you notice it and will you dare to cash it in? The idea that the check already exists is both unsettling and liberating. We spend so much of our lives imagining that what we seek is far away, hidden behind doors we cannot yet open, guarded by people who are more powerful, more connected, more deserving. We tell ourselves that one day, when the timing is right, when we are finally prepared, then the opportunity will appear. But the truth is, the opportunity is already present. It is not waiting in some distant future. It exists in the choices we have, the conversations we could start, the talents we have yet to share, the risks we are afraid to take. The check is already written. It has our name on it. What keeps us from noticing it is not its absence, but our blindness to it. Think of the moments you've dismissed as too small to matter. The coffee meeting you turned down because you were busy. The idea you scribbled in a notebook and never returned to. The compliment you received but brushed off because you didn't believe it was true. These are not random occurrences. They are hints of the check, subtle reminders that life is constantly presenting you with chances to step into more. But when we are caught in routines, when we are weighed down by doubts, we pass by these moments without realizing their significance. We treat them as noise, when in reality, they are signals pointing to something larger. The check exists in every relationship that could be deepened if we dared to be more vulnerable. It exists in every skill we could sharpen if we chose discipline over hesitation. It exists in the work we have already done, in the networks we already belong to, in the creativity that has been simmering inside of us even when we've ignored it. We imagine the check as something distant, as though it must be delivered by someone else, yet it has been delivered again and again, right into our lives, only to sit unopened because we believe it was not meant for us. The power of realizing that the check already exists is that it shifts responsibility back to us. No more waiting for luck, for the right moment, for someone to discover us. The resources, the tools, the inspiration, the connections, they are here. They may not look glamorous. They may not carry the stamp of certainty we crave, but they are real and they are available. Every time we dismiss our own potential, every time we minimize our ideas, every time we tell ourselves not now, we are effectively leaving the check on the table. We are allowing it to gather dust, untouched, while convincing ourselves it never came. To recognize that the check already exists is to change the way we see our lives. It is to understand that what we long for is not out of reach. It is to realize that what we are searching for has been quietly present all along, waiting for us to finally see it and claim it when we hear the phrase $1 million check. Our minds immediately leap to money, to the tangible image of wealth, of financial security, of the freedom that comes with having more than enough. But the check, as powerful as it sounds, is not merely about numbers written on a piece of paper. It is a metaphor for all the resources, opportunities, and blessings that enrich a life beyond currency. Money can buy comfort, yes, but the true wealth of life reveals itself in places where no dollar can reach. The check symbolizes the connections that nurture us, the ideas that ignite us, the moments that remind us of our strength and capacity for growth. Consider relationships. There are people whose presence in our lives is worth more than gold, whose support, love, and companionship are priceless forms of abundance. A single conversation with the right person can shift the direction of your journey in ways that money never could. The check is the friend who believes in you when you doubt yourself, the mentor who opens a door, the loved one who challenges you to rise to your best self. These forms of wealth cannot be deposited in a bank, yet they can transform your life as profoundly as any financial fortune. Then there is the wealth of creativity and expression. Inside each person lies a reservoir of ideas, talents, and imagination waiting to be shared. When you write, sing, paint, design, or innovate, you are cashing in on a form of abundance that no market can fully measure. Creativity builds bridges, heals wounds, and creates possibilities that ripple through generations. The check is not the payment for the art itself, but the art as the payment. The expression of who you are and what you create is already a currency of immeasurable value. The check also represents opportunity. Sometimes it appears disguised as a challenge, as a problem that demands your attention, as a chance that forces you out of your comfort zone. We often reject these moments because they feel uncomfortable or overwhelming, but within them lies the exact opportunity we have been waiting for. The $1,000,000 check does not always arrive wrapped in elegance. It may arrive in the form of a difficult choice, an unexpected detour, or a new responsibility. If we only see value in material gain, we risk missing the wealth hidden in these experiences, and then there is the wealth of self. Your resilience, your ability to adapt, your vision for what you want your life to be. These are treasures that no check could fully capture. The more you invest in your own growth, the more you realize that the true check is the discovery of your potential. It is the quiet confidence of knowing that you are capable of navigating challenges and creating meaning in your life. That kind of wealth cannot be counted, but it can be lived and felt in every decision you make, and every step you take toward your fullest expression. Recognition is one of the most overlooked yet essential steps in creating the life we long for. Opportunities are often present, abundance is often available, but the inability to recognize what is already in front of us keeps us stuck in a cycle of scarcity. We assume that because something does not look grand, polished, or perfectly timed, it cannot possibly be the chance we are waiting for. Yet the truth is, the $1,000,000 check is rarely wrapped in luxury. It usually comes in the form of a simple interaction, a small idea, or a subtle moment that we are too distracted to notice. Recognition requires awareness, and awareness requires slowing down enough to see what is already there. Think about the people who cross your path each day. The colleague whose suggestion you barely hear because you are focused on deadlines. The stranger who offers a word of encouragement that you dismiss. The family member who points out your strength that you quietly brush aside. Each of these moments holds the potential to shift the course of your life, but without recognition, they vanish as quickly as they arrive. The check is handed to you, but you never cash it because you never realize it was real in the first place. Our culture often trains us to look for big breakthroughs, dramatic changes, or grand opportunities. We imagine success will announce itself with fireworks or applause, but recognition asks us to pay attention to the quiet details. A passing thought might be the seed of an invention. A failed attempt might be the lesson that unlocks your next victory. A difficult conversation might be the bridge to a stronger relationship. Without recognition, these moments appear ordinary, but with recognition, they reveal themselves as extraordinary. Recognition also demands that we value ourselves enough to see what aligns with our desires. Too often, we see opportunities but immediately dismiss them because we don't feel worthy of taking them. We convince ourselves that someone else is better suited, more qualified, more deserving. In doing so, we fail to recognize not only the check, but our own name already written on it. Recognition is not just about identifying what is around us. It is about believing that what we see can indeed belong to us. Another barrier to recognition is distraction. Our lives are filled with noise, with endless scrolling, rushing, and multitasking. Opportunities rarely compete for attention. They whisper. They require us to look beyond the obvious and to tune in to the subtleties. If we are constantly distracted, we will miss the whisper. Recognition asks us to pause, to look closely, to ask, what is life already offering me that I have overlooked? When we begin to practice recognition, the world changes shape. Instead of scarcity, we begin to see possibility everywhere. Instead of waiting for luck, we start to notice the patterns, the connections, and the doors that are already opening. The $1 million check does not suddenly appear. It has always been there. What changes is our ability to finally recognize itself. Worth is the silent gatekeeper between ourselves and the abundance waiting for us. The check may be written in our name, the opportunities may already be present, but unless we believe we are worthy of receiving, we will never reach out to claim them. It is not a matter of availability, but of permission, and often the person who refuses us permission is not the world outside, but the voice inside. That voice whispers doubts. It keeps a running list of our mistakes. It compares us to others, and it convinces us that the life we want belongs to someone else. This is why self-worth is not a luxury. It is the foundation on which all other forms of success and fulfillment rest. When you feel unworthy, you approach life cautiously, as if you are trespassing on territory that does not belong to you. You hesitate to apply for the job you want, to share the idea that excites you, to pursue the relationship that calls to you, because you believe that to want more is to overstep. In reality, that hesitation is the very barrier keeping you from the check. The world does not need to deny you. You deny yourself before you ever try. Worthiness is the key that opens the envelope, and without it, the check sits untouched, even though it has always been yours. Self-worth also determines how we interpret opportunities. Two people may encounter the same chance, an invitation, a new role, a creative spark, but the one who feels worthy sees it as an opening, while the one who feels unworthy sees it as a trap. When you doubt your own value, you view opportunities through a distorted lens. Every possibility becomes risky. Every challenge feels like proof of inadequacy. But when you believe in your worth, those same situations appear as natural extensions of who you are becoming. Self-worth transforms fear into curiosity, uncertainty into possibility, and obstacles into stepping stones. This is why building self-worth is an active practice. It is not about arrogance or inflated ego. It is about aligning with the truth that you are as deserving as anyone else to live fully, to express yourself, to succeed, to love, and to be loved. It is about rewriting the narrative that says you must earn your worth through endless effort or perfection. The check has already been written with your name on it, which means worthiness is inherent. The question is not whether you deserve it, but whether you will allow yourself to believe it. When you embody self-worth, you stop apologizing for your desires. You no longer shrink to make others comfortable. You no longer wait for validation to prove your value. Instead, you begin to act from the quiet conviction that you are enough as you are, and from that place, you step into opportunities with confidence. The check becomes real not because the world suddenly changes, but because you finally see yourself as someone worthy of cashing it. So much of what holds people back is the belief that their past has permanently disqualified them from the life they want. Mistakes, failures, rejections, and disappointments pile up like evidence in a courtroom, and they assume the verdict is final, unworthy, incapable, too late. But the $1 million check waiting for you does not operate by those rules. It does not expire when you fail. It does not vanish when someone says no. It does not get voided because you made choices you regret. It continues to exist patiently, silently, waiting for the day you are willing to see that your past is not a barrier but a teacher. When you look back at the moments that hurt you, the ones that left scars or shame, you may be tempted to interpret them as proof that you are not ready, not deserving, not able to succeed. Yet if you look closer, you will see that each one also carried a lesson, a piece of wisdom, a strengthening of character. Rejection teaches resilience. Failure teaches innovation. Mistakes teach humility and awareness. Without those experiences, you would not have the perspective you hold today. The check does not disappear because of the past. It is waiting for the version of you that those very struggles helped create. Think of people who have accomplished extraordinary things. Rarely do you find a life without setbacks. The authors who once collected stacks of rejection letters, the entrepreneurs who lost everything before building empires, the leaders who stumbled publicly before learning to rise. Their check was always written in their name, but it was the process of falling and rising that gave them the courage to cash it. The same is true for you. Every time you think the past has ruined your chances, remember that it may have prepared you in ways success alone never could. The belief that the check expires with failure is rooted in perfectionism, in the idea that only flawless people get rewarded. But life does not reward perfection. It rewards persistence, courage, and willingness to keep going. If you wait until your history is spotless, until every regret is erased, you will wait forever. The truth is, the very fact that you are still here, still longing, still dreaming, is proof enough that the check remains valid. What matters is how you relate to your past. Do you use it as evidence against yourself, or do you use it as material for growth? Do you replay it as a story of shame, or do you reinterpret it as a story of becoming? The check will not judge you for the times you hesitated, the times you fell, or the times you doubted. It simply waits. And the moment you stop letting your past dictate your worth, you finally notice it again, as if it had been sitting quietly on the table all along, untouched, but never withdrawn, claiming check is not a passive act. It is an act of courage. Opportunities can surround us. Abundance can be within reach, but none of it becomes real until we take the step of saying yes to it. And that yes is rarely comfortable. To claim what is ours, we must risk being seen, risk stepping outside the familiar, risk failing publicly, and perhaps most frightening of all, risk desiring something bigger than what we have now. Desire itself is vulnerable because it exposes us. It tells the world what we long for, and in that exposure, we open ourselves to the possibility of disappointment. Yet, without that willingness, the check remains untouched. Courage begins with visibility. Many people live their lives behind a mask, presenting a version of themselves that feels safe and acceptable while hiding the parts that are ambitious, creative, or deeply yearning. To claim the check, you must be willing to let yourself be seen as you are and as you wish to become. Visibility is not about showing off. It is about showing up. It is standing in front of others and declaring, "This is what I want. This is who I am, and this is the direction I am willing to go." Without that level of honesty, opportunities cannot find you because they do not know where to land. Then comes the risk of failure. To pursue the check is to acknowledge that you may stumble along the way. You may try something that does not work. You may hear no more times than you hear yes. You may watch an idea collapse just as you thought it would succeed. But failure is not the end. It is part of the claiming process. Every risk carries uncertainty, and every uncertainty carries a lesson. Those who claim the check are not the ones who never fail. They are the ones who fail and keep moving forward anyway. They recognize that the fear of failure is often worse than failure itself, and that each setback is simply another step on the path. Equally important is the risk of desire. To want more than what you currently have is to admit that where you are is not enough. This admission can feel dangerous because it challenges comfort, routine, and even the expectations of others. People may question why you are not satisfied, why you reach higher, why you dare to want something different. But desire is the fuel that activates courage. Without it, there is no reason to stretch, no reason to act, no reason to claim. Desire is not greed. It is an acknowledgement of the life force within you that insists on growth, creation, and expansion. Courage, then, is not a one-time act but a practice. Each time you speak up, each time you step forward, each time you say yes to something uncertain, you are building the muscle that allows you to claim more. The check is not unlocked by luck, but by the daily choice to lean into fear, to embrace risk, and to move despite the discomfort. Desire is often misunderstood. People confuse it with greed, with selfishness, with the endless hunger for more that leaves us feeling hollow. But true desire is not about accumulation, it is about expansion. It is the pulse inside of you that whispers there is more to who you are, more to what you can give, more to the life you are meant to experience. In this sense, desire is not a flaw to suppress, but the very signature you place on the check that is already waiting for you. Without desire, the check remains unsigned, invalid, and unused. Desire signals readiness. It is the force that tells the universe you are awake, paying attention, willing to engage. It is not enough to simply see the check or even to acknowledge that it belongs to you. You must want it, and you must want it enough to claim it. That want is the ink that confirms your participation. Desire transforms possibility into intention. It turns a vague idea into a decision, and that decision is what propels you into action. Without it, you may drift through life surrounded by opportunities, but never stepping into any of them. The act of desiring is also an act of vulnerability. To declare what you want is to risk disappointment, to risk judgment, to risk revealing a part of yourself that others may not understand. Yet this vulnerability is the very thing that gives desire its power. When you desire openly, you step into alignment with your truest self. You stop pretending that you are satisfied with less and begin to honor the part of you that craves depth, connection, growth, and fulfillment. In this way, desire is not just a feeling, it is a declaration of worth. By desiring, you say, I matter enough to want more. Desire also carries responsibility. To sign the check with your desire means to commit to the journey that comes after. It means you are willing to pursue the opportunities, endure the challenges, and take the risks that come with wanting more. Desire without action fades into frustration, but desire combined with courage and persistence becomes transformation. Signing the check is not a guarantee of instant results, but it is the commitment that you are all in, that you are ready to engage fully with what life is offering. It is important to notice that desire often comes in whispers before it grows into shouts. It might begin as a restless thought, a quiet dissatisfaction, a curiosity about what else could be possible. Too often, people dismiss these whispers as unrealistic or impractical, but those whispers are the pen in your hand asking you to sign. The more you ignore them, the more you leave the check unsigned. The more you honor them, the clearer and bolder your signature becomes. Signing with desire is ultimately about trust, trusting that what you want is not random but meaningful. Trusting that your longing is not a flaw but a compass. Trusting that once you sign, the path forward will begin to unfold in ways you could not have predicted. Playing small is one of the most subtle ways we abandon ourselves. It rarely looks dramatic. In fact, it often hides under the mask of humility, safety, or practicality. But beneath those disguises is fear, the fear of standing out, the fear of being judged, the fear of failing publicly, or even the fear of succeeding and no longer fitting into the life we've known. When we play small, we fold the check back into its envelope and tuck it away, convincing ourselves it was never really meant for us. We tell ourselves that staying quiet, staying safe, staying invisible is the wiser choice, when in reality it is the most expensive one, because the cost is our own potential. Playing small shows up in countless ways. It is the job you stay in long after it stops challenging you because leaving feels too risky. It is the ideas you keep in your head but never share because you're afraid of rejection. It is the way you hold back your voice in conversations, the way you downplay your talents, the way you step aside when an opportunity arises because you don't want to appear too ambitious. On the surface, these choices look like minor acts of caution, but collectively they become a pattern of shrinking, of living a version of life that is safer but far less alive. The tragedy of playing small is that it often feels justified. You tell yourself you're being realistic, that you're avoiding unnecessary disappointment, that you're simply not ready. Yet the truth is that readiness is rarely the issue. Readiness is often born through action, not before it. The check is not waiting for you to become perfect. It is waiting for you to believe that imperfection is enough to begin. By waiting for flawless conditions, you avoid the very experiences that would prepare you for the bigger life you long for. Every time you play small, you reinforce the belief that more is not meant for you. You convince yourself that comfort is safety, but safety becomes a prison. Life shrinks to the size of your fears, and over time, even your desires start to wither because you have taught yourself not to reach. The check remains untouched, not because it is unavailable, but because you have taught yourself to stop looking at it. Choosing not to play small requires courage, but it also requires honesty. It means admitting the places where you've been holding back, the excuses you've used to protect yourself, the dreams you've quietly buried to avoid disappointment. It means daring to want again, daring to step forward even when your legs shake, daring to speak your truth even when your voice trembles. To stop playing small is not about arrogance or domination. It is about alignment. It is about stepping into the full measure of who you already are, no longer dimming your light to make others comfortable, no longer denying yourself the abundance that has been waiting with your name on it all along. Abundance is not something that arrives in one grand delivery, nor is it reserved for a select few. It is all around us, woven into the fabric of our daily lives, constantly circling and offering itself in ways we often overlook. The check is not a single event, but an accumulation of opportunities, connections, and resources that already exist in our orbit. The challenge is not that abundance is absent, but that our eyes are often fixed on scarcity. We are trained to notice what is missing, what we lack, what others have that we do not. In that state of mind, abundance could sit right beside us, and we would not recognize it. Abundance appears in the relationships that surround us. The people we already know can become bridges to new experiences, insights, and support if we are willing to deepen those connections. A casual conversation with a friend may open the door to an idea that transforms your path. A colleague's encouragement may remind you of your strength when you are ready to give up. Abundance is rarely about the quantity of people in your life, but about the quality of connection you allow yourself to build. The check may be hidden inside a single relationship you have yet to nurture fully. It also exists in the skills and knowledge you already possess. Many people underestimate their own capabilities because they compare themselves to others. or because their talents feel ordinary to them. What comes naturally to you could be extraordinary to someone else. Abundance is present in the strengths you take for granted, in the lessons you have learned from past struggles, in the wisdom you carry that others may desperately need. When you dismiss your own gifts, you dismiss one of the most accessible forms of abundance available to you. Abundance lives in opportunities that often appear disguised as problems. A setback at work might push you to explore a path you would never have considered otherwise. A rejection might clear the way for something better aligned. An obstacle might sharpen your creativity and resourcefulness in ways that staying comfortable never could. The check does not always arrive in a form that looks appealing. Sometimes it comes wrapped in difficulty, but inside it is the very abundance you were meant to claim. Nature itself is a reminder of abundance. Every sunrise, every season, every cycle of renewal demonstrates that life operates in rhythms of giving and replenishing. When you align with that rhythm, you begin to see that scarcity is not the natural state. It is the conditioned one. The abundance surrounding you may not always show up as money, but it shows up as energy, as possibility, as flow. When you begin to notice this abundance, something shifts. Gratitude grows. Awareness sharpens. You stop waiting for one miraculous check to arrive and begin realizing that countless checks are already scattered across your daily life, waiting for you to pick them up and put them to use. Action is the bridge between possibility and reality. The check may be written, your name may already be on it, and abundance may be all around you, but none of it transforms into lived experience until you decide to act. This is where many people hesitate. They imagine, they dream, they plan, they even talk endlessly about what they want, but they stop short of the step that matters most, taking the check to the bank. Without action, the check remains a symbol, an idea, a fantasy, rather than a force that changes your life. Action is powerful because it creates momentum. The first step, no matter how small, begins to shift the energy. A phone call made, a message sent, a draft written, a class attended. These small acts compound into something larger. Waiting for confidence before taking action is a trap because confidence is built through action, not before it. Each step you take confirms to yourself that you are capable, that you are moving, that you are worthy of claiming what is yours. The fear of taking action often comes from the illusion that there is a perfect moment, the right time when everything will align. But waiting for perfection only ensures delay. The check is valid now, not in some distant future when you are flawless, certain, or fully prepared. Acting in the midst of uncertainty is what makes the difference. Those who change their lives are not the ones who wait until the fear disappears. They are the ones who act even while the fear remains. Action is also a declaration of commitment. It signals to yourself and to the world that you are serious about what you desire. Without action, desire remains wishful thinking. With action, it becomes embodied intention. You move from hoping to participating, from imagining to creating. Even if the action is imperfect, it carries weight because it affirms your readiness to engage with what life has placed in front of you. Another truth about action is that it clarifies the path. You may not know every step ahead, and often you cannot. But taking the first action reveals the second, and the second reveals the third. The check does not require you to have the entire plan mapped out. It requires you to show up and begin. Clarity is born from movement, not from endless contemplation. The act of doing creates feedback, and that feedback guides you forward. Every uncashed check represents potential left unused, but the moment you act, you start converting potential into reality. The difference between those who speak of their dreams and those who live them is not talent, not luck, not privilege alone. It is action, the willingness to move, to risk, to step forward, to keep going even when the outcome is uncertain. The check is already yours, but it is your action that makes it real, your courage that transforms it from a promise into an experience, your decision that finally turns it into the life you have been waiting for. The $1,000,000 check is already written. It carries your name, it waits patiently, and it does not expire. What will define your life is not whether the check exists, but whether you choose to see it, to claim it, and to act on it. The only question left is, will you cash it?